today's session is on the organization chart. So last week we discussed the 4 key functions, and I just want to spend 2 seconds here talking about this again. We're about to move on to the organization chart. If you have not done your 4 key functions, then consider going here first or going back here to the 4 key functions with the intention of making sure that you've at least listed out all of the processes in this area. So think about every one of the functions, take a look at each one, look at your sub-functions, look at your processes, ask yourself, are any of the processes you have listed not relevant anymore, not things that you're committed to working on and documenting? If so, delete them. And then, more importantly, decide what's missing. If you haven't done your sub-functions very well, redo those, and then look through and say, what's missing here? Well, if you have an empty sub-function, then clearly something's missing. So spend whatever time, depending on how long, how far you've gotten on this, just really with the intention of listing out everything that you need. At that point, it's really a great time to then come and think about your organization chart. So I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about the basic functionality of the organization chart, so how to use it, how it works, and then we're going to talk about how to build an organization chart, how to build it as a strategic tool, how to kind of envision what your business needs to look like and how the chart can help you with that. So when you start your TouchStone account, you'll always have a mock chart or a beginning chart, and it's going to have departments like you're seeing here, usually marketing and sales here at the left, operations, and then admin finance. If you want to add a position, that's what this little X box is for. So the functionality is pretty simple and easy to use, and there's not a ton to do on the organization chart. So click Add Position. And then here you just put in the name of the position. Always use a position name. Try to stay away from using a person's name. If you want to put in the position name and then go hyphen the person's name, that's fine, but don't ever call this a person. It's better to call it a position name. So then TouchStone's asking, where does this box go? So the chart is built from the bottom up. So you're always thinking about what box does this one go under. So I choose a position for this one to go under, and then I hit Save. So then you'll see the box is added right here. So adding positions, super easy. You want to click Add Position, type in the name, and then tell TouchStone which box it goes under. You can delete positions using this next icon over, which looks like an X. So I'm hitting the drop down here, and I see not very many positions that are available for me to delete. If you look back at the gray area, you notice there's a lot of boxes here. The reason I don't have access to delete every box on the chart is because of this bottom-up situation. So TouchStone's not going to let you delete this position, Manager, Marketing, and Sales, because it's got positions underneath it. So it doesn't know where to put those. So you can delete from the bottom up. So you choose the position you want to delete, you hit delete, and then that box is gone. So all of these boxes that are at the bottom of the trees, I have available to delete. So let's say I wanted to delete this position, the Manager of Admin Finance. What I'd need to do is take these 2 positions and move them somewhere else. And then this box becomes at the bottom of its tree, and it would be available to delete. So moving positions is also pretty easy. It's just drag and drop. So again, the scenario is I want to delete this position right here, but it's got these 2 underneath it. So I take them and drag them over to another tree. So I'm just pulling these and putting them over the box I want to move them under. So that's all that's happening. I'm dragging it and putting it right on top, and you'll notice it turns green and then let go, and it moves it right under. Now this box is at the bottom, and I can go back here and delete it if I wanted to. So if there's a position that you want to get rid of or you want to delete, then just drag the boxes that are underneath it away, and then it becomes available to delete. Another thing you can always do is you can edit the title of the position. So right here, I can select this box. It takes me to the job description for this position. Then I'm going to just click this title, and then this I can change or edit. So if you want to change the title of a position or delete it, you can do either one. Delete is here, and then to change the title, you just select it. Printing of the organization chart is not great at the moment. There's issues with the size of people's monitors, the zoom in on their computers, the size of their chart. So there's all these factors that make it difficult or not ideal to print organization charts. In the summer, our summer release, we're going to be adding some new features to the organization chart. I'm not going to promise what they're going to be because in the world of programming, things can always change for reasons that we haven't even thought of now. But things that are on the table are the reordering of boxes, so being able to take a whole department and move it from, say, the left side to the right side. Things that are also on the table are like changing colors in the boxes, so making the boxes be able to be different colors, and then some changes to the print feature, which will make it a little easier or better to print the organization chart, even when it's long. In the current state of the organization chart, you can use this printer icon. What happens is it pulls it up in a print window, and then you can drag the chart and print it in departments. Again, this isn't perfect, obviously, but if you do need a presentation for your organization chart, you want to have it on paper, and it's really long, then you can print it on multiple pieces of paper and tape it together. That would be kind of awkward, but you could do that, and that's what happens in this print window. You can drag it around and then hit print screen, and it prints. Another thing you can do is you can put the chart into simple view. So there's two views. I'm in tree view now, looks like a tree. Then I click simple view, and it looks like an outline. So when I'm in accounts that have a lot, have big charts, like 50 boxes or more, I immediately go to simple view. Because when you're in tree view, I have a huge monitor so I can see a huge chart, but a lot of people don't. So you may only see half this chart, and you'd have to drag over, by the way, which is what you can do to drag. But still, it's a little bit of a pain to drag over all the way to the right. So I just go to simple view, and then I can see it all in just one screen pretty easily. You can also print in simple view. So it's showing all the boxes the same as the tree view, but it's just in this outline view. So that's another way to do it, to print. Another thing that we have done is you can take a screenshot of your computer. So this is of your chart. So this right here is just the snipping tool out of the Windows operating system. Every computer has one. And I'm just taking a big screenshot of this chart. And now this, if I save it as such, it would be a JPEG, or I could save it as a PDF. And now I've got this picture of my organization chart. I could even print it in this view. So that's another thing that you can do. Again, if your chart is huge and you don't have a big monitor like mine, you may have to take 2 pictures of it. But if your chart is a reasonable size, this is an easy way to do it. Now I've got this screenshot you can see. Okay. So also, if you haven't seen me doing it, I just want to point out that you can drag the chart around. I'm just left-clicking my mouse, and I'm in the white space of the chart, and then I'm dragging it around left and right. You can also zoom it. So right here, there's this zoom slide bar, and I can zoom in and zoom out to kind of make it bigger or smaller. Your computer has a zoom as well. So people were really calling for this about a year ago, but what most people, I guess, didn't realize is that your keyboard allows you to zoom. You just hit Shift and plus, and it gets bigger or smaller. So that's the basics of the organization chart. So let's talk about how to build your chart. We call organization charts, when we refer to them, we call them your organization strategy. And it's a strategy because it allows you to look into the future and really decide how to grow your business. Think about what are the positions that you're going to add. Strategize what the departments need to look like. What happens in a lot of small businesses is you just start growing through word of mouth or referral or whatever means you've put in place, and suddenly the work's too much, everyone's overwhelmed, you need help. So you go out and just start hiring. What happens then is that people come in that you've employed, and hopefully they turn out to be good employees, and they start filling in, multitasking. It's a small business. They have to work here and there within every department. They may have been hired to do sales, but in the end they may end up doing some operations, maybe even some admin finance. And the better a person is at multitasking and learning, the more invaluable they become to you because they wear all these hats across the organization. The result of that is that you have what we call people dependency. And those of you who have read Michael Gerber's EMIS book, he talks extensively about this. And most small businesses, I think without a doubt, have experienced this to a certain degree. With this people dependency comes dependency, which is difficult to replicate, because you can't necessarily take that person that's become indispensable to you and replicate what they do. And furthermore, it makes no sense to replicate what they do because it's incredibly inefficient if you look at it from an organizational strategy perspective, because someone jumping around from different goals, different results across the organization chart is inefficient. So what the organization chart can help you to do is rethink all this. And I'm also going to present you a way that you can take any people-dependent situation that may be going on now and work towards rectifying it. So 4 key functions is about subject area processes by subject. The chart is about people and what they do, who does what. So the two come together when you link the processes from the 4 key functions list to these boxes or these positions on the chart. So here are some basics on good organization strategy. You want to have structure within your company. People call it a hierarchy. I think the word hierarchy sometimes gets a bad rap because people think of dictatorship. It's not like that. This is a hierarchy in terms of support. There needs to be a manager who supports the positions underneath. So starting at the top here, keep your board of directors box. I have people email me saying, how do I get rid of this box? And I always say, don't get rid of it. This is you as the chairman of the board. These are the owners of the company. These are the entrepreneurs up here. So whether you intend on having board meetings or not, if you're a corporation, you legally have to, but setting that aside, this is the entity that develops the strategy, that thinks about the business as an asset and tries to envision how to make that asset more valuable. These people up here are getting dividends. They get the value of the growth and the development of the asset. Everyone else down here are the worker bees, including the president. They work to do the work of the business. So without anybody kind of sitting up in here and thinking, how do I increase the value of this asset, you're missing an opportunity. So leave the board of directors box. Call it something different if you want, but leave this idea. Next box down is the president, CEO, general manager. The words to me are not that important. I think people get hung up on, well, we're going to call it a CEO, we're going to call it this or that. Do what you're comfortable with, but in the end, the words don't really mean anything. It's the result of the position that means something. This person here is implements the strategy that is developed up here and manages the key departments. So this person here runs the company, the day-to-day operations of the company. Below the president, CEO, general manager line, you should have at least 3 departments. So sales and marketing. And there are some industries or businesses out there that they just are mostly operations. They don't really sell or they don't have sales activities. But still, you need a marketing presence to a certain degree, even if it's just one box sitting there on the chart. And sometimes the opposite is true for certain businesses. They're sales organizations and all of their operations is outsourced, but maybe you just have a customer service box. So usually without exception, you would have 3 key departments: sales and marketing, or getting the business, if we think over here, operations, service delivery, production, whatever you want to call it. This is the delivering of the products or services, doing the business. And then we have admin finance, running the business. administration, finance, HR. This is the support department, the overhead department. Sometimes businesses will have two different types of services they offer, and so you may want to have two different operations departments within. So maybe like construction, residential, and construction, commercial. So occasionally, depending on how large your business, there could be a variation in the operations area, but basically this is one department, the delivery of the products or services. Every department should have a managerial position above it. So some type of position called, even if you don't like the word manager, it can be lead of marketing and sales or senior marketing and sales person. So some kind of person above that is considered the manager or the lead. If you have multiple levels within your operations or even your sales, think at the point that you're going to have more than, say, 10 people underneath one person, then throw a lead or a manager in there. And this is just the idea that it's literally impossible to manage more than 10 people well. Businesses attempt to do it all the time, but to really manage those positions well, full-time people doing concrete work, it's hard to manage more than 10 people thoroughly. So have like a lead position above or a senior position above. So let's talk about each of these departments kind of going from left to right. So in the sales and marketing department, you want to think about the goals of your business. So this is what makes the chart a strategy. Think into the future. Think about your strategic plan, your vision. Where are you going to be in the next 3 to 5 years? So this really, this exercise of building a good organization chart should make you think about your goals. If you haven't written out a strategic plan or even a one-page vision, then consider doing that. Over here in the 4 key functions under guiding the business, we have a great process for strategic planning. I think I showed it last week in the last week's webinar. Think about the goals of your business. Think about it just to the respect that you can say, by the year 2020, we will be producing $5 million in revenue. Even if you just can say that. If you have that statement alone in your mind, then you can start to build the organization strategy. Because if I know that I want this business in 4 years, by 2020, to be producing $5 million in revenue, then I have a sense for what this department needs to look like. So with the goals in mind, consider how many salespeople are going to be necessary to be generating that amount of revenue. Are you going to need a marketing position? Or are you going to outsource that? What amount of leads are going to be necessary in order for you to then keep those 4 salespeople busy and being able to convert sales and generate $5 million? So this isn't an exact science. It's not going to be perfect, but at least you're putting some strategy to it in your mind. You're thinking, how big will this department be? What will it need? How will it be structured? This is a great thought process to go through, because rather than just getting busy and saying, oh, I need help, hire, you've thought it through to a certain degree, and you've structured a position, and more importantly, you've hopefully created eventually a job description for this position, which allows you to then really know what this position will do. So think about the sales and marketing department, the amount of leads that need to be generated. Think back to your getting the business functions. If you're really going to grow to $4 million, you're going to need to have a marketing assistant. Did you identify the processes over here that the marketing assistant would need to do? What are the advertising processes? Once you're kind of happy with the sales and marketing department, then move to your operations. Start to think about, with the $5 million in revenue coming in, what is this going to need to look like in order to deliver or service $5 million in revenue? This is where a growing business, growing small business, always has the problems, right here. Most people think it's here, but it's really not. It's here. And I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this. When I ask a small business owner, what's your biggest problem, they usually say, I don't have enough sales, I don't have enough leads. It's not that. It's that they can't if they had all those leads, they wouldn't be able to deliver a quality product or service. When there's the amazing statistics out there about the amount of small businesses that fail within the first 5 years. I think it's like 85% or something. But the amount of businesses who stay in business after that 5 years and go on to the next 10 years, it's something like 75 to 80% of those are not profitable. So the statistics get even worse as you go on, and that lack of profitability, I think 9 times out of 10 is because of this department. So what happens is the sales start coming in, and then you don't have qualified people in place to deliver those products or services in a profitable way. And if you are a business where you're doing proposals or estimates, so you're dealing with variable costs, then it gets even worse, because if you create a sale and you've got cost of goods sold at a certain amount, and you then go to deliver that product or service with those cost of goods sold, if these people take twice as long to deliver it, or deliver it sloppily and it has to be redone, then you've just lost money in an amazing way, because cost of goods sold rise with sales, right? So think about the infrastructure here. There's a few techniques for having an efficient, profitable operation that, in terms of organization strategy. One is this, what you're seeing right here. So this is my entry-level position, and then that person gets hired here, and then they move up, and they're ready when they've learned these processes to here. And then they're junior, and they learn these processes, and then they move up to here. By the time they're here, they need to be delivering that product or service in a quality way, on time, every time, exactly as promised, within the profit margins, 0 errors. So these are your experienced people up here. Down here, they're learning. And the better training you have in place, the better processes, the quicker and easier it's going to be for you to get people to here, from here at the entry level to here. The issue a lot of small business owners have, or operations managers have, is they always think that they can hire this position. Let's go out and hire this position. And then you're saying to yourself, I can never find good people. Everyone's terrible. They never do it the way I do it. You can't always find people here. You might be able to steal them from another company and put them here. But if you're going to have the advantage of being able to grow from within and be able to service your business as it grows, then you're going to need to develop some kind of way to hire people at an entry level and move them up. It's a fact that people don't like, and it's something that is scary because it costs you money. But if you're going to scale your business, if you're going to be able to grow it, then you have to do this. There's no other way, because you're never going to always find people here. You're not. This is riddled with mistakes. So having that ability to grow your own talent from within is really powerful when it comes to growing your business. So you can do this in a sales organization as well. All that would look like is, maybe the appointment setter is the entry level, and then they move up to sales. So you can do this kind of grow from within organizational strategy in most industries and in every situation. What's really cool about this as well is I can start to put a cost to it. So I can say, when I hire people here and I train them and they learn everything on this job description, it takes 6 weeks. And then I times that by the amount of money I pay them, and then the overhead, the management costs or overhead, and then I get a price for this. So what does it cost me to take someone and train them to be an entry-level technician? Maybe it's $10,000. Then they go up here. What does this cost me? So maybe it takes them another 6 weeks or maybe a year to learn this. Then I put a cost to that. And then eventually I know what it costs me. Maybe it costs me $60,000 to take someone from entry level all the way up to senior tech. That is power to know that, because then you can plan for it. And you can say, all right, the sales are coming in over here. I know it's going to take 6 months and $60,000 to get someone from here to here, so I got to start hiring people here now. Another thing that it helps with as well is weeding out people that aren't right for your business. What happens when you hire, quickly because you have to, is you make hiring mistakes. And then you put people here, and they're sitting at entry-level tech for a year, and they're going to make it here, but no one wants to say it because you really need them to, clean up the job site or whatever they're doing. Or you keep trying to push them up to here, and they're making mistake after mistake, but nobody notices because everyone's so busy. So this kind of hiring really helps with that, because you can analyze people, because you know with your processes that it takes 6 weeks to get an average person from here to here. If you've got someone sitting there 2, 3, 4 months and they never make it here, well, then you got to get rid of them. So this allows you to put a magnifying glass on this, probably for the first time ever, and say, what does it take? What kind of a person do we need here, and how can we weed people out who aren't successful? So think about this operations department and the levels and the structure that you need, and consider from a training point of view what that looks like. Then move to your marketing and sales, or your admin finance department. So some of the basics here are bookkeeping. Some people are think that this is a no-brainer, but it's not. You really need good financial structure in place. Good finance position, depending on the size of your business. It might be AR, accounts receivable, accounts payable, inventory control. If you're a smaller business, you could just be bookkeeper. You could have a controller and a bookkeeper, or a bookkeeping assistant. But think about the positions that you need to give this, to accurately keep your financial records and be able to provide information to the rest of the company. This is the support department. If this isn't happening well, and there's not a structure for it, and that those processes aren't documented, and it's not on time, all of these people over here have no idea what they're doing. So if there isn't accurate bookkeeping in place, there's no way for even this department to know how many sales they've made, what's been converted and how, and for this department here to even be able to track productivity and expenses, because this isn't happening at a fundamental level. So consider what that looks like for your business to have accurate, on-time financial record keeping. Also think of human resources. So in a small structure like this one, this could be the admin finance manager who manages these people below, but then also does HR processes. The minute you have one employee, you have to think about things like employee handbooks, good contracts, good agreements, how do you fire someone, performance review, writing people up, all of those things that cause issues when they're not done well. Think about your receptionist or your admin positions. I think that the admin finance department in certain situations gets a bad rap because people consider it as overhead. But another way to consider it is the support entity for the entire business. The better job that these people are doing, the easier it is for all of these people to do what they need to do, to the degree that they're not answering phone calls and fixing computers and running out of paper and having files disorganized, and that is causing inefficiency throughout the rest of the company. So think about this department and what the structure needs to look like for your business. When this is all said and done, this chart should be a picture of the future. It's a picture of where you're going. So as you build this, start to kind of erase what's currently existing and redo it in a way where you're envisioning what it needs to be. Once you're happy with your chart of the future, then you can marry the present situation with the future. So that's what these little hire dates are here, what this one is. So I take all of the people I currently have and I look at this future chart and I say, okay, who's doing what now? Which box do each of these people belong in? This is how you take a people-dependent situation or someone who's multitasking all over the organization and fit them into your new organization strategy. So if I have a position called, a person called Bob, and he's a salesperson, and he also does some service work, and then maybe he does some reception work, and he's also the HR person. Rather than building a box on the chart and calling it Bob/he does everything and putting all his work on that, I take Bob's name and I put him here. He's a salesperson, he's the service manager, and he's the receptionist. So think about the people you have and put their names in the boxes that it makes sense. Then for the first time ever, Bob's going to look at the chart and say, wow, I'm a salesperson, I'm service, I'm this, I'm that. That's a lot. But slowly over time, you can start to work him out of those boxes and hire people to fill those boxes. At a minimum, it's helping him to see what he actually does, how many hats he wears. For business owners or high-level managers as well, you're here, you may be here, and here, and here, and you may also be here. So as the business owner, your name's in all of the boxes, or a lot of them. But remember, this is a future organization chart. So you're going from where you are now to the future, but you're going to do it strategically and not haphazardly. So marry the present situation with the future. Small businesses, growing small businesses is difficult. It's tough. All of you are there. Getting over the hump is difficult. So you're going to have people who wear multiple hats. It's just the fact of the matter. But what you can do is help clarify it for them and for yourself. And that's what a good organization strategy will do. A few thoughts about, marrying the present with the future. If you have a person who spans the organization chart, so does work here and does work here and does work here, if it's possible, consider pulling them out of some of those functional areas or some of those departments. Have them be in one department or two at the most. And the reason is, if you really analyzed it, the inefficiency of having someone span the organization chart and jumping around from multiple hats, multiple activities, the inefficiency is greater than the benefit. So if you were to, I used to do efficiency planning 15, 20 years ago, and we saw without a shadow of a doubt, if you have people with multiple results and they're pulled and multitask and pulled in a bunch of different directions, their inefficiency is greater than their reward. So consider that. Consider taking someone who's has that level of multitasking and pulling them back to one or two positions at the most. It's also very stressful. If you have employees like this, if you're like this, it's very stressful. It's difficult, to do work like that. So that's another reason to consider kind of scaling someone's accountabilities back into one or two results at the most. Another thing to consider is if you have hired someone beyond their capabilities. So let's look at this department for a minute. Let's imagine that you have a salesperson who's like your best salesperson, and you hired more salespeople, and you're supposed to be kind of managing and training everyone, so you're supposed to be here. But you're all over here, and you're so busy, you couldn't really do the training, so you said, hey, number one salesperson, you be the manager and try to train these people. And then that kind of sort of worked, but he wasn't a great manager, and it ended up being a bit of a mess, but you just left it because you're busy. Think about, once you do your organization chart, reworking that. So simply say to that lead salesperson, we're restructuring the company. I've really built this vision. We're going to build processes. So for the time being, I'm going to fill this role as manager of marketing and sales. And then when the time's right, the business has gotten to a place where we really need a full-time manager, then I'm going to train you or hire someone else, if that's the best situation for both of us, to fill this role. So take it as an opportunity to kind of relieve people of those responsibilities. It doesn't have to, if you've already decided to pay this person more, then you can work that out and continue to pay them more. But it's just a simple fact of saying, okay, we did this too early. Another last thing I'm going to say to keep in mind about marrying the present with the future in your organization chart is try not to have two people's name in one box. So if you've got 4 salespeople, then clearly that's a different situation. But let's say you have 2 people as the manager of marketing and sales, or you've got 2 presidents, or you've got 2 managers of admin finance, or you've got one person who's the service manager and also the bookkeeper, but then you've got another person as the bookkeeper because sometimes this person gets busy and can't do this position. So if you've got two people accountable, then nobody's really accountable. Nobody's really doing the work of that position. No one knows who's supposed to do it. It doesn't get done. It's a confusing situation. And if it's a managerial position, it's confusing for everyone down here because they don't know who their manager is really. So think about one person in each box. Who's going to be overall accountable for that? And default to yourself if you're the owner. Put your name in this box and then wait until the time's right. So that is the basics on, good organization strategy. I have one question. So someone's asking, yeah, I get this question a lot. So they're asking if the expense of like this situation where you're spending 6 months training people and then you get the position up to senior and then they leave and go somewhere else. There's not an easy answer to that. The only thing I can say about it is, Michael Gerber used to say this, create a game worth playing. Create a place where people want to be. Create a business that's worthwhile. This simple structure alone, that you're really taking the time to train people, an actual training, and you're showing them tangible results, I'm going to get you from here to here, that's more than probably 85% of your competitors are doing. So create a place people want to be. One of the #1 reasons employees leave is because of their manager. That's why. Bad management. Bad person as a manager, not good management processes, not a culture that supports kind of a nurturing environment of caring and training, a dictator that's like so busy that they don't have time for you, and then they yell at you and you do something wrong. People leave because of bad management. So create a game worth playing. There's no alternative. Well, let me say it another way. You have to train your employees. There's no way around it. You have to invest in them. There was this, I'm sure you probably heard this cartoon before, but I just love this. There was this cartoon that I think I saw it on Facebook, and there was a picture of a CEO and a CFO. And the CFO says to the CEO, well, what happens if we spend all this time training these employees and all this money and then they quit? And the CEO says, yeah, but what if they stay? Right? What if they stay and you don't train them? Because that's what's happening now. So create a game worth playing. That's the best way for me to say that. Someone else is asking about these numbers. These numbers mean the number of people in this role. So in TouchStone, you don't need to duplicate like positions or the same positions. So like if you had, let's go here, this is a simple example. If you have 4 salespeople, you don't need to have 4 sales boxes because it becomes redundant. It's, the same processes, the same box, so you can just put the number 4. These titles hold a lot of information. So I can click here. I can put people's names if I want. I don't really like this personally to put their names, but you can. You can put them in the objective also before. You can also put, like a hire date. I usually do like, Q3 2016. So you're doing like a quarter of a year because it's not super exact. And then once you save this, then if I go back to the chart itself, you see it here. So as you're working your organization strategy, think about, putting some reminders here in the boxes. This is great for your employees too because they can see the opportunities as you grow. They can see, well, we're going to be hiring 4 more salespeople, and then we're going to be hiring the manager of marketing and sales in the next year. So they see that you're kind of developing this picture or this opportunity, which is also, a business that people want to work for. So once you've created your organization strategy, this picture of the future, this is leading us into the system of the week, which I'm going to go to. The next step is to put some numbers to this. So there are 3 key strategic tools I think every small business owner can benefit from. 3 that I think are just, the essentials. One is a vision of some kind. Just as simple as that. 1 2-page plan for the future. It should go 3 to 5 years out. I think anything past 5 years is just a little too difficult to plan for. At least that's what the statistics say. If you can see clearly 5 years out, you can see 10 years, then do what you want. But typically speaking, 3 to 5 years is about what we can plan for and see. So some kind of vision, even if it's bullet point list of what you want to do. The next is an organization chart, an organization strategy, which is a picture of all the people in the future, the structure of your company. How is it going to grow? What does it look like? Who's the first hire, the second, the third? Then the third key strategy tool is a financial plan or a budget. So those three, a vision of some kind, organization strategy, and a financial plan, a budget. So over here in the process library under running the business, we've got just a simple budgeting tool. It's really nothing special. You can probably find this on the internet the same as you're seeing it here. So budget template, it's an uploaded file, so I just hit view file, and then it opens, and it just looks like this. This says month across, but I think month is almost too much. I think if you do quarters, it's better. So if you do Q1, you can call this 2016. Oops, I just blocked it. Then that works just as well. Some of these categories that we have here might be a little too narrow for you, a little too difficult to plan the details for. About some kind of budget or template like this. If you have a good accounting system, you can go and export your P&L into an Excel spreadsheet, and then you can use the P&L to kind of plan out. So even if you just do this year by year, I know some of you probably have detailed operating budgets and you're really good at this, and others of you who have tried it and it hasn't worked, and some of you that have never done it before. So all I want to say about it is it doesn't need to be some big complicated process that takes hours and hours and you can't really track because it's just too detailed and complicated. Think about it in its simplest of forms. Try to, if you can, just project sales. So here it is again. So here's the revenue area. Just project sales. Make this quarters or make this years even and say, okay, here we are now in 2016. What do we think our sales will be at the end of the year? Then go to the next year. What do you think they'll be at the end of 2017 and then 18 and then 19? Then think, what are your variable costs? For those of you with true variable costs, this isn't that hard because it's a percentage of sales really. Then fixed expenses. And then most importantly, your net profit. This is something that everyone forgets about. Don't know why, but you do. This is the money that you earn as the shareholder of the business. A certain amount of this sometimes gets put back into operations, but a percentage of it, if you're making a profit, is your dividend. It's your asset producing income for you. So think about this equation. What are the sales? What are the variable costs? What percentage? What are your fixed costs? And what is your net profit going to be? This should be in your strategic plan. So plan out this budget. Then think back to your organization chart. So this is the picture of the future. And then in your spreadsheet, in a way, this is like the last column of the last row of 2020. And each of these positions has a salary attached to it or an hourly rate. It's costing something. So at the end of 2020 in that spreadsheet, you will have all of those expenses right here at the end. And then you can backtrack if you want. You can say, okay, this is what it looks like at the last year, 2020, and then what does it look like now, and then fill in the middle. What this budget spreadsheet can help you do is plan out the hiring of these positions and to make sure that you remain profitable. This is the key for any growing business, remaining profitable, right? because it's always a balance between sales and marketing and operations. You're juggling these two all the time. You grow, and then you've got infrastructure you've got to create. And then you create a lot of infrastructure, and oh, we don't have enough sales. We've got to grow sales. And the two are juggling back and forth all the time. So these hiring decisions become really stressful and difficult because you say to yourself, what if I don't have enough money to pay them in 6 months after this big project's done? So the planning of this out financially helps you to control it a little bit more. So also in the library, there's something we call a compensation plan. So this is the process of the week that I want to talk about. It is right here. It's in the library, so you can go down, Add from Process Library, and pull it in, but it's called a compensation plan. What this compensation plan helps with is it helps with future planning. So when I say go to the organization chart and plan out what each of these boxes is going to cost on the chart, this is compensation planning. So here, this is what it looks like, and it's really, really simple. There it is. This one is filled in. Here, you've got positions from your org chart, and we're going to plan out what each of these boxes is going to cost. Sounds simple. When you're planning what to pay someone when you hire them, that part is simple. So this compensation plan helps with the future planning of your organization strategy, but it also can help with your current situation. Because if you don't have a compensation plan, what happens with the employees you have is that you hire them in at a certain rate, and then you just kind of like give them raises when you have the money. We didn't have much money this year. We didn't make any money. We lost money. I can't give you a raise. Next year, we had a fabulous year. We can give you a 20% increase. Next year, oh, it wasn't so great. I can only give you 5. And then suddenly, over the span of the employee, you have different people earning different amounts based on what they did in certain years that you can't even remember. So having a compensation plan can help you systematize this or create a process around it. So you take each of your positions, and ultimately you can put people's names here for the current situation. You would create a low salary. What's the lowest amount you could ever pay this position? There's a website called salaries.com. It lets you put in your state, your county even, and then the type of position, and it gives you like an average rate that you would have to pay a person doing that in that role. So think of the low and think of the high. These are salaries, and this is hourly. So I just have 2 as an example because these people are hourly and these ones are salary. So you do the high and the low. What's the lowest amount you could ever pay them? And then what is the highest you would ever pay them? What is the most they would ever earn in this position? Even 5 years out, what do you imagine being the highest? The average life of an employee is typically 7 years. Doesn't mean it's always that. This is just the average. So we use the 7-year mark or rate. And then if you can then see that the low and the high is about 7 years in between. So this is showing at year 3, this is what they should be making. So what this does is it allows you to, first of all, see where your employees are at in terms of the high and the low, how long have they been with you, and then ultimately what percentage increase can you give them each year before they would tap out at the end of 7 years, the highest they would ever make, you might say. So this compensation plan would help you analyze this, what's currently going on with your employees. It gives you some power when you then start to think about how to give raises to people every year. It helps you to analyze if you're significantly underpaying someone or you're significantly overpaying them. And it helps you to have a conversation with them about it, because you can say to someone you're significantly overpaying, listen, this is what's happened. This is what we're going to do about it, or this is how we're going to handle it as we go forward, which can be a difficult conversation, but it's better than not having it. So you develop something like this for the current situation in your business, but then again, it will help you plan out for the future. Because if we were doing this brand new and you didn't have any of these positions, you could use this compensation plan and really have a cool way of, knowing what to pay people and what percentage increase you can give them every year, based on a good performance review. So think about compensation plan. Any other questions? No? Someone's asking about salary resources. So there's this website called salaries.com, which is a good one. There's probably others. There's also a website called netprofit.com, I think. So someone's asking how do they know what a good net profit for their business is. On this net profit website, they show industries and what typical variable costs are, and then also what typical net profit would be by industry. This used to be published in these series of books, but now it's all available on the internet. If you can't find the website, then email me and I'll send you some other recommendations. Net profit is kind of a tricky thing because there are industry averages, which are good to use. Generally speaking, like a construction production type company, it's usually going to be somewhere between 5 and 10 at the highest. And this is if you've got, your infrastructure in place. For service businesses, those tend to be higher, somewhere around 20 to 25. The highest I ever saw was a law firm. And I'm not talking about just this year we had a good year and we had 30% net profit. This is consistent from year to year, barring any kind of major changes in the economy or difficulties in the business. This is year to year consistent net profit. So this law firm was earning 30% net profit. It was amazing. They had good infrastructure, they had good training, they had a good mix of services. It was a phenomenal company. They had processes in place, 30% net profit. It was great. One owner of the company. If your net profit can be affected by, obviously, by infrastructure changes, so moving of an office or major purchases. But on a consistent basis, you should know what it is, and then also know what you want it to be. Know what you want it to be, because if it's not what within the industry average, and you don't have a good reason for it, then there's something in the company that's creating that. So one of the number one places to look is in your operations. If this department is not delivering the products and services in a profitable way, then that is affecting your net profit. And it's all about the cost of goods sold. The more complex your cost of goods sold are, the more difficult the profit is to control. So what I'm talking about, for those of you who don't know, is cost of goods sold varies with sales. I could sell $5 million tomorrow over here, but if these people were not delivering it in a profitable way, so they took twice as long to deliver it, I'm never going to make money. And the answer will never be sell more. That's never the answer, because the more these people sell, the less money I make when the cost of goods sold is out of whack, when people are wasting materials, when orders get lost, when these people don't deliver efficiently, when they build the house upside down, when they have to put the window in 5 times, when whatever your situation is, when they piss off a client and he quits because the service is so horrible, all of those things cause you to lose money. We call it holes in the bucket. So the answer to that situation, I'll just say it again, is never you need more sales. It's that you need to tighten up the delivery of your products and services. And that's all about good documented processes. So next week, we are going to be talking about job descriptions. This is great. Job descriptions, the job descriptions in TouchStone are your most powerful management tool. So if you are a business owner on the line now and you have managers in place, the managers to any degree, I would say bring them on next week to the webinar. Have them listen. Each of the webinars is recorded. So someone had this question earlier. And I'm not sure if they're automatically emailed out to you or not. Let me check with the marketing department on that and see if they are. They used to be. They used to be if you registered for the webinar, they'd be automatically emailed out to you. Let me check on that. If they're not, and anybody wants a recording of a previous webinar, like last week's, then you can email Michael Mills at businessdesigncorp.com, or you can email me, and I'll make sure it gets sent to you. But next week, job descriptions. So we're going to talk about how to build them in TouchStone. We're going to talk about how to organize them. But most importantly, we're going to talk about how to use them as an effective management tool, because these job descriptions, even if you had never documented any of the processes, these are your most valuable management tool. So that will be next week. Thanks for coming, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.